So this is a very common thing that I see between personal training and sports massage is a lot of people's lower backs are just giving up on them, and they'll come in and get fixed, but they'll go back to those same habits. Some of them are unavoidable, some of them can be changed. So a big one that gets people is just being in the car. Your back, instead of this sort of shape, it's just rounding the other way, tipping the pelvis forward, and that also leads to the neck sort of leaning forward as well. So you're rounding at the top and rounding at the bottom. So it's just taking away the natural curvature of the spine, the way we're supposed to operate really. If you think of a typical day, you get up out of bed, get yourself sorted, get into the car and drive to work. Then when you get to work, you're sitting at a desk, hunched around your shoulders, typing on the keyboard, pelvis tucked around. Now this isn't for everyone obviously, but a lot of the jobs do have that. The likes of my job doing the massage, I'm constantly hunched over looking at people. If you're a carer, then you're lifting people, pulling and hauling. All jobs will have a certain degree of it. And even if you do escape it in work, then at the end of the day, you're back in the car on your way home. So you're home and you get your feet up watching the TV. Now recliners are especially bad for this. They're quite deep at the back. So again, with the rounding, the body just sort of molds into that shape, which isn't ideal. It can be a bit of a struggle getting up. You feel the muscles all tightening together, and then when you try and go about the rest of the day, you're just that wee bit stiffer. Now, you may loosen up after a couple of minutes, but if you're doing this day in, day out, then technically it's a bad habit that your body is playing to every day. So getting up and doing a wee stretch there and then, it's not going to help you too much. It'll help you there and then, but not long term. So the best way to do it, if you can't eliminate these habits, is to actively fight them, to work them into your training. So I'm going to give you 5 ways to fight these common causes of low back pain and poor posture. One way to do it is by stretching the glutes, just loosening up that glute max mainly. It's the biggest muscle in the entire body. So it makes sense that if it is shortening, then it's going to start pulling on different areas. The easiest way I can describe it is, say the glutes are here and this logo is your back. As it tightens up, then it just kind of pulls over, and that's going to happen from the hip, pulling on the low back, also down on the hamstrings. It'll affect things both up the way and down. So doing a nice wee glute stretch, feeling into it will help. Stretching the quads and the hip flexor is also a good way, because the hip flexor coming from the pelvis up in the roundabout here but connecting into your spine, it's going to pull you down forward. The shoulders come round, the head's down, and you're in the same position. So by lengthening that, allows you to stand upright, shoulders back, and just operate the way you're supposed to really. You could also stretch the hamstrings, because the hamstrings can pull on the glutes, which will pull on the lower back muscles then as well.
I'm going to show you 2 glute stretches. The reason being, you may not be mobile enough to get into the right range for one of them, so you can substitute with the other, or even if you are able to do both, it's good to just hit it that extra wee bit. So the first one, I'm going to lie flat, looking up the way, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this left leg up and set the ankle of the right leg just on top of the knee. I'm going to reach through and interlock my fingers with the hamstring and drive up towards me. While I'm doing that, with this other elbow, I'm going to dig into the inside of the knee and drive away from me. Okay, keeping the breathing going and just relaxing into it. So pulling the hamstring towards you and driving that other leg away from you. Just creates more tension and allows you to get a deeper stretch. And when you're coming out of it, ease off with the knee and slowly lower the foot down to the ground. So you don't want to overdo it, you want to go nice and light, and then you can always add in an extra round or 2. I would start off by trying 30 seconds and doing both sides, see how you feel, and you may want to do another round again or substitute a different exercise. So this one here, same start position. I'm going to lie down flat, bring this leg up, keeping this opposite shoulder into the ground. I'm going to pull the leg across. Now if you can only get here, there's no pain and you're feeling the stretch, then that's grand. if you're able to go round, then that's good too. Different people will have different levels of flexibility. Now, you're going to hold that for 30 seconds, keep the breathing going, and then slowly come out of it. I find that pulling in different directions on different days, depending on where it's actually getting you from day to day, that will vary. So the stretch will be different each time you do it, and it's just about feeling into it and knowing what's going on in your body, basically. Then I would move on to this, which is going to stretch the quad here, and also this psoas muscle, alright? So I'm going to put the foot forward a wee bit and just drive forward with the hips, keep a nice proud chest, and just leaning into it. And slowly coming out. So what you can do for a dynamic warm-up, hold a position here, drive in and out, and in and out. So you would do the dynamic stuff before a workout and the static after. So if you play about with it a wee bit, then you can just make the most use out of it and use it for different things at different times, really. And then from there, I'll go from this position to here, and I'm basically going to do a hip hinge, hinging back, and straight away I feel that just purring all here, which is, it's like a real nice stretch. And you just sit back into it and keep the breathing going, and then slowly drive the hips forward, steady the foot, and come out of it. On the floor, gripping on with the fingers just to create that tension and driving into the ground, okay? Keeping everything nice and tight. And I'm going to start, not by looking up the way, I want to look straight ahead. I'm going to touch the chin to the sternum, and that's what you to drive the sternum up, round in the back, pushing the ground away, work down each individual vertebrae, and tucking the glutes at the bottom. Then I'm going to tuck the glutes back and up towards the roof, driving the belly button down and allowing the rest of the spine to follow suit, okay? So I have my hips over the knee and my shoulder over the wrist there, okay? Gripping on, creating that tension. So I would tend to do usually a set of 3 to 5 of those, just depending on how I feel, and then working other things in, depending on what the issue is with the body. So the stretches I would recommend 30 seconds, 2 to 3 times, just nice and light. You don't want to overdo it, you can't overstretch and hurt yourself as well. So a wee bit at a time, say 5 minutes before training, 5 minutes after training, just to get you started. And then as you go on, you can treat it like training with a progressive overload and just apply more force or hold it for a wee bit longer, making the stretch a wee bit tougher and moving on to more complex ones. So it's a nice wee starting point, and you know, it's just a great way to loosen the body up and you feel pretty good after. So if any of you have got any sort of low back issues, try some of them stretches and let us know how you get on, guys.